Every year, more than 23,000 people for Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières, or MSF, from around the world are committed to providing emergency medical care and relief supplies to millions of people in distress in nearly 65 countries. This is possible thanks to the financial support from more than 3 million individual donors worldwide. MSF is a private, non-profit humanitarian organization created in Paris in 1971 by a group of doctors and journalists. Now an international movement, MSF provides impartial help to people in need, without discrimination and independent of political powers. All branches of the MSF movement share the same charter and respect humanitarian principles and medical ethics in their work. MSF teams provide medical assistance to people struggling to survive violence, epidemics, or natural disasters. Providing the best quality care remains central to our action.
What is the major problem?
Our work can lead us to speak out publicly.
I appeal here today to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Russia, and through him to President Yeltsin, to stop the bombing of defenseless civilians in Chechnya.
My guest today is head of Médecins Sans Frontières.
Through the media, we highlight a crisis people are facing, mobilize other aid organizations, or draw attention to flaws in the aid system. MSF also publicly denounces situations in which aid is hampered or misused.
The French section of Médecins Sans Frontières is forced to leave Niger.
From its earliest years, MSF's priority has been to provide humanitarian assistance to civilians caught up in armed conflict. Our teams treat the wounded and ensure that the people's essential needs are covered.
It's the only program, the only place where patients can be sure to receive treatment rapidly.
MSF also works where there is widespread disease or epidemics, whether treating illnesses such as cholera or organizing vaccination campaigns against meningitis or measles. MSF teams can respond swiftly. The organization provides health care to people suffering from diseases like malaria, AIDS, and tuberculosis in places lacking resources, health staff, infrastructure, or suitable treatments. MSF also focuses on nutritional care in contexts of famine as well as malnutrition, and has developed effective new strategies for both the treatment and prevention of malnutrition.
The child should gain weight very quickly, and provided he doesn't develop a secondary infection, which is of course a risk in such circumstances, he should be running around within 8 to 10 days.
MSF helps people stricken by natural disasters such as earthquakes, hurricanes, or floods. In other projects, our patients are people excluded from society and without access to health care: prisoners, undocumented immigrants, street children, or the homeless. Whatever the crisis, an MSF team will independently evaluate the medical needs and decide on the best course of action. Basic medical consultations, complex surgery, specialized care for women who are victims of sexual abuse, psychological care. Our teams provide a wide range of treatment. For displaced people, our teams provide shelter and ensure water supplies and build sanitation facilities within the camps to prevent the spread of disease. We also organize food distribution to the most vulnerable.
And this one, I don't think you can imagine what she looked like. You cannot imagine how bad she was.
To provide such a range of activities, MSF relies on multidisciplinary teams composed of medical, logistical, and administrative staff. Since the 1980s, MSF's field projects have been supported by specialized logistics. Medicines and essential supplies are assembled, packed in kits and dispatched to the field from our logistics centers in Europe. This allows us to manage the whole supply chain of aid, from the first evaluation stage to supplying projects with high-quality equipment ready for immediate use. MSF refuses to accept that the poorest communities can only have access to second-rate treatment. We adapt medical knowledge to local settings and develop our medical practice to best meet the needs of our patients. Together with Epicentre, a group of epidemiologists set up by MSF, our medical departments lead operational research and provide expertise to teams in the field. In the 1990s, our doctors became bitterly frustrated at the lack of effective and affordable medicines for a number of widespread diseases devastating poor countries. Because these patients are not a profitable market, they don't interest the pharmaceutical research industry or even governments. So MSF launched the campaign for access to essential medicines in 1999 to push governments and drug producers to make accessible treatments for AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis, sleeping sickness, and other neglected diseases.
Why are we, a medical humanitarian agency, here in Seattle at the start of the ministerial meeting on trade? Because our patients are dying. Our patients are dying not because their diseases are incurable, but because as consumers, they do not provide a viable market for pharmaceutical products.
At the same time, MSF looked hard at the medicine practiced in its own programs to ensure that recent and effective drugs are used. In 2003, MSF pledged its support to research and development of new drugs for neglected diseases by joining forces with partners from around the world to establish DNDi, Drugs for Neglected Diseases Initiative. It develops partnerships between industry, academia, and NGOs to deliver effective treatment for diseases which are otherwise ignored. MSF is an international movement made up of 5 operational centers, supported by 14 national sections, each overseen by a General Assembly and Administrative Council, elected by the organization's members. Thanks to this large network, MSF has significant financial, logistical, and human resources at its disposal. Nearly 90% of our money comes from private donors, which guarantees our ability to act independently. The other 10% comes from donor agencies. More than 80% of our funds are spent on supporting our projects in the field. 12% is used for fundraising, and 6% pays for administrative expenses. In exchange for the trust of our millions of donors, we are committed to being as transparent as possible about our accounts and the use of their money. More than 23,000 people work for MSF each year, representing dozens of different nationalities. 3,000 international staff work alongside more than 20,000 locally employed doctors, nurses, logistics experts, translators, and drivers. This local connection is vital to ensuring the quality and continuity of our programs. It helps us to understand the places where we work and to adapt our projects to those local needs. In 1999, MSF received the Nobel Peace Prize.
I hope this Nobel Peace Prize is an acknowledgement of independent humanitarianism, free of all political and military influence.
A reward for all those who at one time or another have been committed to our organization, dedicated to independent humanitarian work. Work which demands the freedom to act and to speak out.